Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pipcast, your Pip-Boy-supported podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Sugar Bombs, the cereal with truly explosive flavor. My name is Tony Moe, and I'm joined by my co-host Caedo Genesis, and today we have a very special guest for you. We're joined by veteran voice actor, Mr. Marc Graue. He's joined us today just to come on and talk a lot about his career, and he's actually done a lot of work in video games, so we're looking forward to picking his brain on that. Welcome aboard, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it was a real pleasure to talk to you before the show, and it's a real pleasure to have you on.
I thought this was a timeshare presentation. Who is this? No, thanks for having me, guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely our pleasure to have you on, and so I'm pretty sure you saw the bio highlights. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, I would like to mention it to the listeners, like what voices you have done that may involve wastrels and wastelands and all that other good stuff. So Fallout New Vegas, you were the voice of Davison Keene, and it says Super Mutants. I'm guessing
right.
that's various different Super Mutants.
All the yelling at everyone.
Okay, all right. And then primarily a more recent one for those of us who have experienced Wasteland 2, you are the voice of General Snake Vargas, mm-hmm. Hobo Oracle, who I'm not familiar with, and Jean Rambeau, which is one of the probably most funny characters in
He's pretty strange.
He is. And in World of Warcraft, excuse me, World of Warcraft, Vorka, Enochis, and Orc General in Warlords of Draenor, and the Undead in the vanilla game, right?
Yeah, that, and then this new the new feature film too going in.
Oh, nice.
More orcs. If it's dead or mutated, I'm usually the one that wins.
That's awesome.
The running gag is I never get to play the guy next door. I usually play the guy that kills the guy next door. So.
Oh, okay. I played an Undead for a long period of time, so like I'm right there with you. What if it's the dead guy that kills the dead guy?
Yeah, well, there double dead, double dipping.
Yeah. So also you were Mr. Zircon in Ratchet and Clank.
Right.
Clyde in Resistance 3.
Mm-hmm.
Zinfu, is that Zinfu or Jinfu? Jinfu. Okay. In Avatar: The Last Airbender. Mm-hmm. And in Command and Conquer 4, Tiberian Twilight, you were voice.
That's it. That's voice. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's my whole career. That's all of it. Well, thanks for calling, you guys.
So that's the main highlights that I got for those of you that are curious. Is there any any shows that you want to mention too? I know you did like several cartoon shows and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, just a number of shows on that, and again the new StarCraft that's coming out that will be released in November, and there's it's a beautiful looking game, and I play a character in that is a big character that I guess is kind of I'm not supposed to disclose. Damn those NDAs. So, but anyway, yeah, it should be a really good game. Absolutely, it looks great.
Okay.
So it's goodness about 2 weeks on doing that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So Tony, you want to start with the questions or the interrogations or whatever you want to call it?
We could talk about. You said you've been doing this. I mean, you're talking about your studio. You said almost going on 30 plus years, almost 40 years with the studio, but. Outside of I guess the direct length of how long you've actually been voice acting, when did it kind of start for you, and when did you really get into it?
We did the radio thing for years and was Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Washington, San Francisco, San Diego, and just I was always in trouble I had a whole cast of characters that I would do on the air. And the audience liked it, but management, not so much. The door would fly. I can't believe you just said that. Now apologize to the Chevy dealers. I'm sorry. And it was the classic, we just want you to talk with a consultant. It's like, well, let me put this stuff in my car first because I know where this is going. But my first one was production and doing voices and all that kind of stuff. And I basically completely BS'd my way into a huge music studio back in the late 70s. This was like the heyday of, Motley Crue and Michael Jackson, Ozzy Osbourne, that whole genre, Journey, the Cars, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was a really large studio. So I was in charge of their media studio is what I ended up doing. And I talked Warner Brothers into coming in to do a spot for Van Halen. And that was kind of the first foray into anyway, long story short, they came in, they brought their own engineer. I ended up, listening to the spot and went, this is okay. And ended up doing my own and sent it over, and they called and said, what is this? And I apologized all over, saying I realized I overstepped. They went, no, we loved it. And I had Warner Brothers for, goodness, probably 18, 19 years to AOL bottom. And then but now, of course, there aren't really any record companies anymore, very few.
Yeah.
But the animation stuff, that started really, way back in the Hanna-Barbera years. I think that was where I had my very, very first audition. And it was, I at that point, I'd done a lot of voice work, but I had never auditioned for anything. So I was a little nervous and wrote this entire, script of now we'll have to find the great knower of stuff. You might call me great. Yes, no. And you're kind of jumping out there, like, God, he's on crack, And that was kind of the start into that, and getting an agent and all of that kind of stuff. So, and I kind of just took off from there.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's probably I would say legendary. At least it sounds that way.
Well, I was very fortunate in. I grew up out here I was actually born in Hollywood at Queen of Angels. That's why I'm so screwed up. That's the excuse I'm using. And my dad used to anchor news at Channel 5 at KTLA. So I grew up with Stan Freberg and Dawes Butler doing a live puppet show. So I used to sit there and watch him. And Dawes was actually my godfather. Dawes, for those of you who don't know, was, Quick Draw McGraw, Yogi Bear, all of the Hanna-Barbera characters. And so that was really like, wow, this is really cool, and kind of, he didn't really mentor. I mean, he did, except I was just a kid, but I was just like astounded at what he could do and changing his voice, and thought that was really, really cool, So it was kind of an interesting little ditty. So, but yeah, that's kind of how things started.
All right.
That's awesome. It's funny you mentioned radio, actually, because there's a lot of people in the YouTube scene, whether they be gaming commentators or so forth, who had their start in radio. And I almost feel like, because I didn't have an opportunity to do anything like that in college or anything, like a part of me wishes I could. I listen to the local radio station. I'm like, that'd be fun to get into and to do that. So it's always interesting to see how many people actually, it seems like there's a lot of people who have their roots, in radio in one way or another when it comes to voice acting or, just anything where you're speaking.
Funny, radio is a very hard thing to get. Radio is all that the light comes on and all of a sudden you're just, hey, all of a sudden, listen to that. My voice grew 3 out. Can you give me more me? Thank you. And so sometimes it's difficult for people. They've got that great promo voice, but to get out of that and actually, get into a character voice is a little bit different, kind of a thing. There's people, Gary Owens was a dear friend, God bless him, who's since passed away, but, Gary in beautiful downtown Burbank, and that was his thing, made a fortune of it,
Yeah.
So, well, outside of all of that, since you've been doing it for so long, is there anything that, having been in it for, nearly 40 years,
Right? My pants are squishy. First, and I have my Jell-O. Okay, sorry. Okay.
What, have there been any, I don't want to say benefits, but what have, kind of been the increases in the enjoyment of doing something like this because you've been doing it for so long? Has there anything that's really changed after 40 years?
Well, it's changed. It used to be that we'd all have to schlep around in Hollywood. There was a handful. You'd have to actually go to Hanna-Barbera or to Deke or to your agent's office or to a production company to audition. And, of course, now everybody does everything at home and has home studios kind of thing. The internet, it's been a very, very good thing in that it's opened up a much, much wider playing field. I think the downside is that you have an awful lot of people who just assume that it's a pretty easy thing and you can just jump into it and do it. I think for me at this point, the most fun is mentoring and doing stuff like this and just, kind of, paying it forward a little bit. And I've been extraordinarily blessed in what I've been able to do. And it's paid for, 2 divorces, 3 houses, put 3 kids through college. So life is good.
Sounds like worked out. Worked out really well.
Exactly. Well, And Rob Paulson is a dear friend, and like Rob said, he goes, "We're all getting paid a lot of money for stuff we got in trouble for in the 7th grade," which is very true. You kind of love to go back to the teacher then and go, "I told you this would work out, and you sent me to the principal's office." I spent a lot of time there for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like if Tony, I know you can probably agree on this too. If we had the opportunity to, because connecting with people is a separate beast, especially with different mediums. Like I would have easily wanted, or at least sought after a mentor of some kind for doing the YouTube thing. But once you get to a certain point too, you learn that being a content creator or being someone in any craft, really, the potential mentors have to know that the drive is there.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, that's very true. And there's people that there is an extraordinary amount of money involved. In whether it be video games, whether it be cartoons, in anything. As far as what they're spending on something. So you need to really, is it fun? Absolutely, positively, but it is very much a business. Mm-hmm. And when they're spending, $200, $300, $400 an hour on a studio, plus, paying you as talent, which can run, relatively high, that's not the time to go, so what's the backstory on this? You're very dependent on that director to tell you. They set it up for you and will tell you exactly what's going on. You have some that are, Lucas used to be notorious for, like the Star Wars stuff, where they would give you, 4 pages of description on a character, and it's like, what kind of voice do you want? And by the time you got done reading, you're so confused. It's like, hell, I don't know. Maybe he's a gay orc. I have no idea. It's like,
How does one do a gay orc? Is there a way to?
What's that in your pants? Are you very attractive?
That you should have been in Shadow of Mordor.
Just destroyed all of our careers. Thank you.
Okay, so if you don't mind, Tony, I'd like to ask the
go right ahead.
The Wasteland 2 one. So how did you get involved? It's a 2-parter. How did you get involved with Wasteland 2? And what are your thoughts on it being funded through Kickstarter?
Well, the fact that they actually did the Kickstarter thing and got it funded and did way above and beyond what they thought, it really shows you the power of mass audience. Obviously the game had a huge following in order for them to generate that kind of money. I was approached to do it. In fact, I don't think I may have auditioned once, and they went, yeah, that's, can you do this? And I went, sure. And they went, great. The first portion of it was done down at a little studio in Newport Beach. And that went well enough that they decided they wanted to do it. And then when they realized I had the big studio in Burbank, they decided they could do everything there and control things a little easier. So, but no, it was really an honor that they brought me on. Absolutely. It was great.
Yeah. Awesome.
While we were talking about all this stuff, the progression of your career and things like that, was there ever really a big point for you in your career where, you kind of thought like, maybe this isn't what I want to do, or maybe this isn't going to work out, everybody has their hurdles and difficulties, but was there ever a point where you questioned, doing, what you loved, as a living?
Well, it's funny, back to with the studio portion, I started the studio first because I knew that would be the bread and butter, that would be an ongoing thing. But it's funny, of all the, very, very negative as far as, you can't make a living doing that. Probably my biggest, criticizer was my dad, who was like, you don't have that kind of backing, you don't have the contact. Dad, he was a captain in the Marine Corps, again, an anchor on the news. So it was like, don't tell me, I know you've smoked pot, you gay communist. I don't even know if you're in this country, It's like, gee, thanks, Dad, that's great. And he, in fact, it was a very cute turning point. He happened to be at the studio. This is 2 times. The first time Debbie Reynolds was there. And of course that was his era. So he thought that was like, wow, maybe this kid's legitimate after all. And the other one was, he was out smoking a cigarette, and he's smoking with this girl, and he comes back and he goes, boy, she's a really nice gal. What did you say her name was again? And I said, that's Grace Slick, from Jefferson Airplane. And it was like, I would have loved to, like at 12 or when you came in and said, turn that crap down, to go, you know what? Someday you'll be standing in front of my studio smoking a cigarette with her, and you're going to think she's cool, So it was, a turning point. I mean, you have that, the second guessing. The interesting thing with this business in general is that you can do something that you feel is dead on. You've looked at the copy, you really, really have it in your head and are ready to go, and you will hear nothing. And you have to realize that it's very much out of your control. It's not necessarily that your read was bad. It's simply that that's not necessarily exactly what they were looking for. Occasionally you will get, even direction in a session. I've used a story, was at Cartoon Network playing the part of a troll. And the direction was, she goes, I love the size of him. Now make it sweatier. And you're trying to keep that, straight actor. Yeah. Okay, the sweaty troll voice, and your brain's doing a Homer Simpson, with the gears all locking up. It's like, what the hell does that mean? Throw something back, and then, it works out. But it really, it's a wonderful, wonderful business. I mean, again, it's all I've ever done. I mean, the ups and downs, sure there are, but there is in any career. I think the key is to not get so bogged down with the business itself, with that, where, because, you have a lot of people that, followers and fans and all that stuff, which is wonderful. I mean, that is glowing. And then you have other people that go, yeah, the voice, not you suck, and it's like,
yeah.
Well, and that's just part of it,
Yeah.
You can't please everybody by any means.
Yeah, there's going to be haters.
Oh, yeah. Which brings us to Hotel Mario. Go ahead, get it out.
No, I didn't have that on a list of questions.
I do actually. I wanted to talk.
Oh, do you want to? Oh, that's right. Okay. Go
just
ahead.
Because, I mean,
oh,
like
yeah,
you said,
you're just mean. That's all. Go ahead, get it out of your system.
It's like I never actually, played the game. It was, would easily say it was before my time. For me as a kid, Mario was, the NES and the Super NES, and it was, something I really...
This was like CD-ROM with Philips. I mean, I think they were just starting to get like, ooh, video games. I mean, they weren't really sure what was going on, I don't think.
Yeah, just trying to drive into it. I mean, what was the... I mean, I imagine, it's kind of similar, doing the process of video games, but was it any different with a company like that was... I mean, they launched that like as... They thought this was going to be their flagship thing, like, we're going to get into video games, we've got Mario, and we're going to try and make this big thing happen. I mean, was it a different experience for you? Was there a lot of pressure behind it, from them towards you to...
Not, you don't really feel the pressure that much, because once you're hired to do the job, you're basically giving them whatever it is they want. Now, sometimes you may be going, really? That's what you want? Okay. But it's not really your place to go, well, screw you, I'm not doing that. I'm an actor. Don't you smell that? I'm a thespian. How don't you know what I'm bringing to this role? And it's like, you really can't, it's as long as they're happy with what you're doing, and ideally leaving them with, wow, you even brought more to this and what we wanted and stuff. And, sometimes they will have you do, normally with a video game, you do, 3 lines, or you'll do a line 3 different times. And that in different inflections and stuff, because again, depending on when they cut it in, or you are reacting to whatever the player is doing, they'll have different feelings and stuff. But, on that game, the interesting thing is very rarely, now more so, you'll get to see maybe a little cutscene or at least a really nice drawing of the character or something. But a lot of the time then it was, you just was kind of relying on where they were telling you to go.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, I mean, like you said, I guess you could say the failure of that game, despite the fact that we are talking about it. So in some ways, I suppose it was successful, at least in form of memory. But I think that very much has, that has a lot to do, obviously, with why you're here today talking about this. Like you said, when we were talking about ups and downs, you looked at that and, you still like, I did my best, this is what I'm doing, and you moved on with that. So.
Oh, but the cool thing is, I mean, it's taken on a whole life of its own with all these people on YouTube doing, cutting, using the audio. I mean, at least I've seen them use audio for everything, including porn, and it's like, that's a great career, Mark. But, it's still, the fact that it found an entirely new life, like 30, 40 years later is pretty amazing. I think, good or bad, it's still fun that it's out there, sure.
Yeah, something's been made of it. It's fantastic.
So should we ask him the gaming question?
Yeah, I mean, we were curious. I think anybody who does. I kind of feel like when it comes to jobs that people get to work that they actually love, it also means that they spend an extensive amount of time doing that, working on that job. It's a huge part of their life. It's not really like that 9 to 5. You kind of don't shut off with something like that. But I mean, what have you ever had an interest in video games? Was it something that you ever?
No, it wasn't so much that as it was the character voice stuff. To me, that's kind of, I mean, voiceover in general kind of encompasses all kinds of stuff. I mean, I narrated a series called Alaska State Troopers for, goodness gracious, 7 years. So that's a whole different genre, obviously not particularly character driven.
Yeah.
Same with doing, promos for Anderson Cooper or CNN or CBS or whatever it may be. To me, the character stuff, that's the fun stuff, because that's where you can really visualize a character and you can really bring something to it. With animation, they usually draw the character to your voice. So that's where you can put in, little quirks and burps and laughs. That's why Tom Kenny did so well with SpongeBob. They loved to laugh and went, wow, that's really neat. And he's phenomenal. He's a really, really talented guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that show it's still fun to watch. I mean, I'm 25 now, and I can have an episode come on. And
they all refer to it, the annuity. That's what they call the show.
So what do you do? What do you do since it was like a? So you don't really play any video games?
Occasionally,
Okay.
but I'm not really. I'm older, obviously, and my hands are too slow and fat, and I can't figure it out. No, so sometimes, sure, I occasionally, but I'm usually, so busy doing other stuff that I don't. I mean, I've got all the systems in a whole big room that's got everything in it. And I'll play occasionally. My son loves it. He'll come in and do it, but of course, we'll get started. It's like, okay, you're dead, and it's like, what? Yeah, what the hell? So, but to me, the performance part of it is more fun, and doing, creating a character, and then when you see what they did with it when it's done, you went, wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, becoming the character kind of thing.
Yeah.
Role playing. You're basically role playing, but in a real sense that everybody else gets to experience too.
Well, it's one of those things you really have to have an image in your head of what it is, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? Is he big? Is he small?
Yeah.
Is he easy? Is he, fat? Is he, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that all comes into play. And most voice actors will get to the point where you can change up pretty rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
I always use that silly thing with a sleazy street rat, and it's like the first voice people usually do is that Joe Pesci kind of thing, where all of a sudden he's like this, you know what I mean? hey, and all of a sudden he's talking like this with a cheese. Hey, where's my cheese? And somebody goes, no, let's put about 60 pounds on a guy. So while you're talking like this, let's make the guy a little bit growth and put a little more balance on him. There he goes. There we go. Now he's a little bit fatter. He's got about 60 extra pounds on him, and somebody must make him stupid because he's like he's not that smart about stuff, or boss rat and bring him down a notch. If you take my cheese, I'm going to pull your tail out of the socket. Do we understand each other? So it's just changing up and having fun,
Yeah.
And again, but you're very much relying on a director to tell you, where it is that they want you to go. People that are trying to get into this business, once you have that character and you can do anything, it's like if you're at a party and you're, mimicking your next door neighbor, a teacher, somebody that's a dork, and you do a voice, mimicking the guy. That's a character. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to, rather than just doing those 3 lines that you do for that guy at a party, if you can, read, a paragraph, 2 paragraphs out of a book and stay in that character, then that character is yours. And now you can kind of bring that to anything. Wouldn't matter what they wanted you to do.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. So what do you like to do if you have spare time? I should ask. What do you like to do in your spare time?
I travel. Now that I'm older, I just got back from a huge trip to Europe, which was awesome. Actually, it was a voiceover conference that they paid me to go do and speak in London. And then I bucket listed and went for, up to Edinburgh, Scotland, over to Dublin, Ireland, to Amsterdam, where, yes, I did partake and realized why now I don't. It's a little intense. And then, went all over to Paris and to Luxembourg and to Germany and Brussels. It was a really great trip. So, a lot of, that kind of stuff. A lot of hanging out with friends and stuff, and trying to, I've got a full gym here at the house, so I'll go out and hit that and do that kind of stuff. But I found too, I get tons of emails from people asking, how they can get into stuff, and at this point, I really am pretty good about, answering emails or phones and all that kind of stuff to just kind of help out if I can, because again, pay it forward.
Yeah, well, that'll segue into one of the other questions for sure. If you had one tidbit of advice for aspiring voiceover artists, what would you tell them? Just one.
Buy custom knee pads. Sorry. Sorry. No, I think honestly is just be realistic, in what you do. No one is jack of all trades with the exception of maybe Frank Welker, who can do everything. But just be realistic in what you do and really, approach it as a business. It's like, don't, just all of a sudden go, okay, I've got a demo, now I'm going to start, really pursue it and believe in yourself. It's very, very hard to, like you were saying with ups and downs, you hit a low point, and any actor hits those where, you're off the mark for, a week, a couple of weeks longer, and just, keep that spark. And also, don't lose that spark. Don't get, cocky and I smell that. Hey, that's me. It's like, no, just, be real, believe in yourself, but realize that, it's a phenomenal way to make a living. I mean, if you're, if you've ever gotten paid for sitting in a room and talking, you're successful. They paid you to sit there and talk. How cool is that?
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit. I mean, I think it's just sitting here and you take the voices out of context, out of their situation, out of a film that's more serious. I know there's a lot of humor to it, and I feel like, is that something that just kind of goes hand in hand with voice acting, or was it maybe a personal thing for you where sort of comedy and humor was a big part of?
Well, voice actors are nuts. They all it's crazy. I mean, the outtakes we've got from things like Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, and I mean, it's everybody. You're having a good time. You're acting silly as a grown-up, and that's perfectly appropriate. It's fine to do that. I think that the voice stuff, like it depends on the role. I mean, there's some roles obviously that aren't necessarily comedy. Obviously, with a lot of the stuff I do with the evil stuff, but you can sometimes throw in an extra line and they go, "Oh, that was great," and they're all laughing and they'll keep it. The interesting thing with especially animation is that ad-libbing they really like, to throw in stuff and play with the script a little bit and stuff. You don't want to push it, too much, and you need to realize to your audience. I mean, obviously, if you're doing, if it's a Disney project, you don't want to be getting real R-rated because that'll be a bit much.
Yeah.
So you might want to tone it down a little bit. But that's the fun part with this, is that you can really bring to it your sensibility and your timing and your approach. And sometimes it'll be right on the mark and it'll be great. And other times they'll go, yeah, but try this, and that's what that director's there to do. Directing, in this field too, can be very, I love where you're going, put 60 pounds on them, give them a 2-martini lunch. And it's our job to go, oh, okay. Rather than, what?
Yeah.
Let me write that down. You just
aside from the sweatier question.
Yeah,
make them sweatier.
Yeah, exactly. And, most directors, if they're good, you're right in the pocket and they're filling you in on what's going on. Sometimes it can be a little daunting when writers are at the session because they're so familiar with the character and have been living this day in, day out that they will talk to you for a good 20 minutes with a backstory on the character, which is great. But by the time you're rolling, it's like, oh, what did you want me to do again? I've got that he was, raised on, born on this planet and kidnapped by the Sklerky people and, all of that. But then it's like, I forgot where you want me to go.
Yeah. If you're given an entire biography, I'm guessing it's in a short period of time.
Oh yeah.
Of a character and then being asked to yeah.
Well, we had one, the director was like this. I love what's happening here, but realize this is an enlisted man, okay? Now, they treat him like an officer, but he's not an officer. He doesn't have that kind of feel to him. He's very much an enlisted man, but all the men look up to him. And he's very strong, he's very powerful, but again, he commands, but not in the situation as being an officer. He's in the trenches with the guys, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, and here's the line. Yes, sir. And it's like, I think we probably could have done like, 5, 6 in a row, and you would have gotten, but you just kind of go, oh, okay, yeah. That's their style of direction.
Yeah. So did you connect relatively well with General Vargas as a character?
Yeah, I really did. It was, they kind of, they would, guide me through as far as what was going on. The hardest part with that is that at that point, a lot of the time, the game has not actually been created. So you're really relying on the director telling you, no, this is what's going on and setting it up for you. The cutscene in the opening where he's talking about, losing, some of the deputies and the guys that have died, they wanted that to be a lot more emotional. But again, you're not really sure. Now, sometimes if you're lucky enough, they may have a snippet that they will show you to give you a sense of what's going on. But normally it's the director, telling you this is what's happening. This is the lead up to what you're going to say. Right.
So that's I feel like, that you would have a really interesting connection, because he's pretty fluid throughout the entire game up until the end.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't get really upset. He's pretty level, like just that kind of,
Oh yeah, he's gruff and grizzled and yeah. Been through it, not really surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
Now, as opposed to a character like Mr. Zircon, who they let me ad-lib the heck out of that with all of, Mr. Zircon, think you're stupid for it. And there's all kinds of outtakes they probably will never use because they're tasteless. But at the same time, you roll through stuff and just do a set, and they'll go, "Oh, that's great. Let's use that." Kind of stuff, and that's fun. That's fun to do.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank in general has some of the most colorful, entertaining dialogue of any series I've played. So it's really cool that you got the opportunity to do that too.
Well, it's fun because it's a very different kind of a role.
Oh yeah.
And very, tongue-in-cheek with a lot of the stuff that he says. And then they brought on the Zircon family, so he had his, so that was kind of fun as well, to play off that as far as having a Mrs. Zircon, where he's petrified and scared of her, So,
Right.
So, it was fun. Absolutely.
So can I ask you about your work with New Vegas? Was it just you? Were the recording sessions like back to back, or were multiple of you like in the same studio at the same time, or was it multiple studios? Or
you mean as far as the characters that I was doing?
Like recording the characters for Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, usually that's done in a single session. You'll do all one character, and then maybe take a break and then come back and do the others, or you'll just go do this character, all the lines, do this character lines, do this character, all the lines, And there are some games that have, a massive amount. I've done games that had upwards of 30,000 lines, and that's like, it's, and thankfully, the engineer at a session like that, they have things for reference so they can play you back a piece and go, oh, okay, great. Because you get, so when you're, running around and you're doing this, and then you're doing that character, and you're doing this and doing that, and then you come back in and go, what was this guy again? Oh, okay, great, got it. They'll play you back, and then you realize, okay. And then it's not a big deal to slip into it. But sometimes you can kind of get lost and forget, exactly what you were doing.
Yeah. So what was it like playing a schizophrenic super mutant? Davison is the super, for listeners. Davison is the super mutant at RepCon who is basically taken it over and scared off the ghouls, and he speaks to a Brahmin skull and calls it Antler.
Right.
And that's their fearless leader, the Nightkin at RepCon. So what was it like playing a schizophrenic character like that?
Davis, he's in rehab now. He's out at the Betty Ford.
Oh, okay, that's good.
That's
good.
Roles like that are always fun because you can just chew it up and you can get very, very. It's fun doing loud broad characters, and then it's very fun to get that really crazy, intense on some lines also, where it's very close, kind of just like, kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And those are a lot of fun to do, and anytime you have a character like that, and most evil guys are slightly off center somewhere down the line anyway, somewhere in there, they're a little, not altogether right.
Right. I'm sure there's definitely a few of them in in Fallout New Vegas. But so you were also the voice of Keen, who was another Nightkin that's in Jacobstown. And he was the very abrasive, I would say, leader of the Nightkin in that area. And it was Marcus who was trying to keep them in check, but of course Keen was the leader of them. So what was it like playing like Davison was kind of a fun, I would say, like taking him in as a player. Like Davison was more of an entertaining and fun, like he's talking to a Brahmin skull. I mean, this is kind of funny.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But then you got Keen who is very, very like, we need stealth boys right now, or we're going to kill all of you. It's kind of scenario.
And that's, you've got everything from again, that really intense. I mean, a lot of the mutant stuff is that kind of feel.
Yeah.
That foul, but there's something, inherently fun too when you have a character that's more like this. It's just that kind of.
Wait, did you play the voice of God/Dog also?
I may have. I don't,
He was the voice for Dead Money.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's terrible. I'm awful for it. The terrible thing is that, when you're in the moment, you're absolutely the physicality of that character, all of that. I mean, you're absolutely in the moment, but when then, the next job, then you're becoming that character. So you kind of lose the sense of like, what, I'm not sure. What was I doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's some that, stand out again, like Zircon, just because it's such a different, and silly voice. And the stuff that he says is just very short, little tight quotes, but they're always usually pretty silly. You know?
And for I know we talked about this beforehand, but for Director's Cut of Wasteland 2, did they have you come back to do some more voiceover stuff, or can I even ask that? That's...
No. They not so much come back, but what they actually do a lot of the time, they'll actually do, have additional dialogue for something like that, and a lot of the time too, they will come in and shoot video while you're doing stuff.
Oh, okay.
And have a behind the scenes a little bit too to stuff, just to show,
okay.
which is kind of fun.
Well, when they were announcing the Director's Cut as the Director's Cut of Wasteland 2. They're adding a whole bunch of new mechanics and additional content, not just to PC, but they're bringing it to consoles as well. So it's going to be more widespread, and I feel like it deserves it too. But yeah, I feel like a lot more people need to be enlightened with this title.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
I think it's doing. It's certainly found the niche, and I think as it finds its way to more systems as far as consoles, I think it'll do better and better and better. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I really wish them well. I mean, that was quite a daunting task for them to basically approach us again as a crowd fundraised thing like that and actually pull it off.
Oh yeah,
and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it really is.
And a lot of the developers too there are heavyweights and have been in the business for quite a while. I'm sure you met several, or if not all of them.
They know exactly what they're doing.
So they're just like, we have fans here and there, kind of thing. At least it seemed that way. And then it was just like, oh, we all congregated just to support it. I didn't get the chance to join the Kickstarter at the initial Kickstart, so I went for the playing cards that they put out. I don't know if you saw that too. Yeah. I went for the playing. I still have yet to get them, but I'm pretty excited to get those. Might do a giveaway or something for the second deck I got.
That's cool.
But yeah, so General Vargas in the opening cinematic for Wasteland 2, you dubbed over for the person that played General Vargas, or was
Right.
that you?
No. The original guy, I think, was from Australia,
Okay.
and they had, and I guess I'm not sure what the, inner workings of that were. I'm not evidently I'm not sure it was availability, or they just weren't happy with where it was going. I'm not, because that does happen too. You will go in and do a character, and they'll go, that was great, perfect, and then you leave and then realize that they didn't end up using you. Now, thankfully that doesn't happen very often, because you've gone through such a process to get to the point where you're actually recording it, that usually at that point they're pretty sure that you're the one that they want for it.
Yeah. Well, that's really really cool how they did that in live action too. Like you don't see that very often in modern games.
No, true. With all the cutscene and the bombs and all that. No, it was pretty cool.
Right. So Tony, I'm sorry for spearheading. Are you still there?
Yeah. No, I wanted to ask you. I mean, we were talking about all these characters, and not like I would ever ask you, just to pick one, but was there any character that you really enjoyed, one that kind of stood out in memory? I mean, you've done so much, but was there one that was kind of like, yeah, I even if you could go back, was there a certain character that you really, really dug?
Mario is really special. No. All of them take on a certain, it's interesting to see how when you do a character and then it comes to life and how it affects people that are playing the game and stuff, and whether they like the character a lot or they don't, but the fact that it's made some impact on them is great. I mean, that's really quite an amazing feeling, that it's like, wow, that somebody really really likes what you did, or they don't like what you did. Usually most people, though, by the time, because with games and animation and stuff, they kind of know what the fit is going to be. I mean, if it's a pirate voice, if it's a this, if it's a that, they're looking for a specific sound. So once you do that, usually you're pretty much in the pocket with what it is that they're trying to accomplish with that. I would say, Zircon, I think is just because it's a lot of fun to do. But honestly, this new character in the big game as far as StarCraft, is a big, now, the voice will be very processed and da-da-da, but it's a phenomenal character and was really, really a lot of fun to do, and Andrea Toyas, who's the voice director for Blizzard, she's just a jewel to work with. She's a sweetheart, so.
Well, that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Getting even just getting the chance to work with people that are almost a treat to work with is certainly a positive added to it.
Well, it is. It's there's nothing better than to have a session that just goes remarkably well and everybody's happy and it's like it's great and all big hugs afterward. And, oh man, that was so great. And anytime that you bring something even more to it than what they were expecting, and not cockily, it's just that's kind of what our job is. So when you really hit it and you leave and they're just going, God, this was just perfect, and that's a really good feeling. That you accomplished what they hired you to do, and everybody's really happy about it, and the session went well, and chances are the game will be a monster. It'll come out really well.
That's good. That's really awesome.
All right, well, definitely, we want to really thank you for your time, Mark. We're going on like 40 minutes now. I didn't realize how much time has passed. It's been an extreme joy to talk with you, and I gotta admit, I was nervous as hell, but you've been just fantastic.
Oh man, it was my pleasure. Absolutely.
And I'm really looking forward to StarCraft. Actually, I'm a big fan of the campaigns for the game. I'm terrible when it comes to the competition thing, but I've always loved the characters and the cutscenes. So I'm definitely looking forward to that expansion.
Looks just stunning. The stuff they've done on it looks. I mean, the stuff I've seen was just incredible. Really, really something.
Yeah.
And your studio, you guys are, obviously you're still going strong. We'll definitely, throw some stuff down there in the description for anyone interested in checking out what you guys are doing. I know you guys not only offer, recording space, but you said you also do, like teaching and, sort of.
Yeah, I do. I started doing that because I had a lot of people asking that aren't in LA. Like, how could you possibly, so I do like one-on-one Skype sessions with people. The site for that is marc- Graue, Graue. And I've got actually a couple of people I'm working with now that have some auditions coming up for video games, and they wanted to hone stuff down. And I'm happy to do that. Absolutely. And then the studio itself is at fixinthemix.com. And there's all, and you can see the studios and select picks and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, Mr. Graue, I do have a request for after we're done recording too, for something cool.
Well, of course, whatever you like.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Well, do you have anything else, Caedo? Or
no, I think that that's it. I mean, we could do the general discussion later. So.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you once again, Mark. It was really, like I said, it was a treat to have you on. We really appreciate it, and best of luck with the continued future. I hope to hear your voice in more games and animation. And just keep seeing you doing what you love.
Well,
That's always fantastic.
Thank you both very much for having me.
And we'll know exactly who to listen for now too.
Well, it warms my heart to know that neither one of you have any taste.
Happy to assist.
No, thanks again very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. As always, all the stuff we talked about, Mr. Graue's studio and all of that, you can find all of those links down in the description below. And we'll see you in the next one.